We have people from so many different countries, race, religion, gender. People who watch Game of Thrones, let me have a show of hands. And people who don't. All right, Apple lovers. Apple? iPhone? Apple lovers? Non-Apple lovers? Wow. Wow. So much diversity in one single room, and it is beautiful. Beautiful. All right, so all ready? Yes? So all you have to do, it's very easy. Just follow my instruction. Yeah? And we'll start the activity with a breathing exercise. And when you let go, you have to let go with a ha sound and let your whole body relax. I'll show you. So take a deep breath in, so I'll do it. Then I'm holding it, and when I say breathe out, you'll go, right? Like, and now take a deep breath in. Hold it. Hold it. Just a second more. And let go with the ha sound. Again, take a deep breath in. Hold it. Hold it. And exhale with the ha sound. Now for the third and the final time, please keep your eyes closed, because what we will experience is profound, but you'll only experience it if you do it. All right? So take a deep breath in. Hold it. And let go with the ha sound. Have a big smile on your face. Keep your eyes closed. And all of you are already smiling, so that's easy. Now, think of a happy moment in your life. It could be anything. Maybe someone complimented you, or you got successful in something you were trying very hard. It could just be having dinner with your close family members, or admiring nature. Anything which made you happy. You don't have to visualize anything. Just remember. Think about it. Now, with a big smile, open your eyes. Something happens to us when we are happy or we are in love. And all of us experienced it today, right now. When we were clapping for each other, when you thought of a happy memory. Whenever we are happy or we think of love, something expands about us. We feel the same expansion when you're admiring the beauty of the nature. I'm sure everyone has seen at least one spectacular sunset or sunrise. Something expands. Or you could just be sitting on the beach and looking at the ocean. Or just standing still, surrounded by the majestic mountains. There is something which expands, and you feel as if you're part of something bigger. And remember that all of us, when we are happy, our energies respond in the same manner. With practice, you will notice that your energies move upward. There has been a shift in your energy and in the collective energy of this room. All of us identify very strongly with our countries, race, religion, gender. TV series we watch, or the gadgets we love, right? And this brings us together into groups. But this is what also divides us. We have to always remember that these are just external identities. Deep within, at our core, we are the same. When we are happy, our energies respond in the same manner, no matter where you are from. Right? All these identities are external to us. But deep down, we are one. We are human. And this realization is the first step towards world peace. Conflict begins where this sense of belongingness ends, right? This is what allowed a Hitler to, I am struggling for the words here, but this is what allowed a Hitler to treat millions of Jews as lesser human beings. This is what allowed centuries of oppression due to colonization. And this is what led to few top bankers and traders to give themselves millions of dollars in bonuses during GFC, while so many old, hard-working pensioners were pushed into poverty with their whole life savings being wiped out. This sense of belongingness, when it lacks, it leads to people doing horrible things to each other. And unfortunately, some of the worst crimes against humanity is done in the name of God. Actually, if I was God, believe me, I'll be so busy suing so many people for defamation. Enough wars have been fought for peace. A lot of organizations are working for peace. Enough treaties have been signed for peace. So my question is, why don't we have world peace yet? What is it that we are missing? Is absence of war equal to world peace? Is that it? Because by that logic, a lot of countries have not been at war for quite some time now. So can we say every single person living in these countries are peaceful, are happy? I don't think so. A very huge population, even in these countries, are leading highly disturbed life. They are searching for peace and happiness in that bigger house, that better car, that more prestigious job, that exotic holiday, or maybe that perfect relationship. Can I safely say that our world has never been in a better place in terms of material comfort, medical advancement, technology which has actually brought the world to our fingertips? So by that logic, all of us should be happier and more at peace. But data speaks otherwise. According to WHO, the numbers are boggling. 300 million people have depression. 50 million have dementia. Schizophrenia is said to affect 23 million people. 800,000 people die due to suicide every year. Domestic violence is an epidemic. In 2017, and this is the most recent year for which the complete data is available, close to 39,773 people died due to gun-inflicted injuries in the USA. Terrorism has affected almost all parts of the world. Will I be so wrong in saying that in this room alone, there are people who have been bullied? There have been people who come from violent homes, who have been ridiculed and made fun of because of their sexual orientation, the way they look. Some of you guys may have been body shamed. Is this peace? I don't think so. Enough wars have been fought for peace. Millions have died. With every advancement in technology, which is making communication easier than ever before in the history of mankind, we are lonelier than ever. If name, fame, money, looks were the criteria to happiness, there would be no depression, no suicide by the movie stars, rock stars, top corporate guys. And this is why I want to share a story. And chances are, few of you would have heard it, but the reason why I want to share it is I want to reinforce the deep wisdom within it. How many of you have heard of Mullah Nasruddin? Whoa, okay, at least one person. Yes. So after this, Google. Google Mullah Nasruddin, not right now, please. His stories are short, funny, and filled with timeless wisdom. So one day, Mullah Nasruddin was just outside his home and he was down on his knees and arms and searching frantically for something. So his neighbor was passing by and was like, Mullah, what happened? So Mullah Nasruddin looked at him and he's like, I've lost my house keys. So the neighbor was a good neighbor. He's like, all right, let me help you. So both of them searched frantically for the house keys everywhere. Like, they really made good work of it, looked at every nook and corner possible, raked all the leaves, everything. You try and remember, where exactly did you lose your keys? So Mullah looked at him and he's like, yeah, I lost it in the house. Have you been in a position when you are so furious that you are almost speechless? The poor neighbor was in that state. But he was wise like us, so he took a deep breath. He was like, are you trying to tell me that all this while we were searching desperately for it outside, the keys were in your house? I was like, yeah. Again, he took a deep breath, but it didn't really work for him. He's like, then can you tell me what are we searching for it outside? And he walked off. And now I'm going to state something very obvious. For Mullah Nasruddin to find his keys, he had to look within his house because that is where the keys were. Similarly, lasting peace and happiness can only be found within us. For this world to be peaceful, I have to be peaceful. All of you have to be peaceful. World peace starts with individuals being at peace. World peace will begin with one peaceful thought, one peaceful mind, and one peaceful individual at a time. And I'm in good company. Because Dalai Lama said, and I paraphrase here, he said, if we are angry within and we keep chanting world peace, it'll have no difference, believe me. First, we have to be peaceful within and practice it. And then only we can go and teach peace to the rest of the world. Makes sense, right? All of us have heard, when we say peace, we talk about countries being at peace. We talk about different communities being at peace. But if you look very closely, it is the people who are negotiating or conducting these peace talks that have to be peaceful. And then only we can have sustaining and lasting peace. And history stands witness to it. And being peaceful does not mean taking the easy way out, going with the flow. It definitely does not mean being a coward. Far from it. It takes courage. It takes immense courage to choose peace. We cannot stand for peace only till the time it is convenient for us. Because during times of adversities, it takes immense strength to keep standing for the cause which is right. And it is courage which ensures that we choose peace, even when it is inconvenient to us. And peace demands a lot from us. It demands forgiveness from the very people who have harmed us without giving up the fight for what is right. Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, all great men. They all fought against some deep-rooted injustices against humanity, perpetrated by some very powerful and oppressive establishments. And all three of them stood for peace, love, and non-violent resistance. And in the process, attained the stature of being giants among us humans, which a very few have the courage to even aspire for. Winston Churchill had very famously called Mahatma Gandhi as that half-naked fakir. Well, that half-naked fakir, armed with twin weapons of truth and non-violent resistance, brought the mighty but highly oppressive British Empire on its knees in India. And his Gandhian philosophy deeply influenced two other great human beings, Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, when he was walking towards his freedom, after being 27 years, take a moment, let it sink. 27 long years in prison left two things behind. What were those two things? Bitterness and hatred. Even while I'm saying it, I'm in awe of this. Like, it's beyond comprehension. Nelson Mandela said, and I quote, "I knew if I did not leave hatred and bitterness behind, I'd still be in prison." And when Martin Luther gave his historic speech, "I have a dream," it was his dream that one day his nation would rise up and live out the true meaning of the creed that all men are created equal. And he too used love and nonviolent resistance as his weapons. He said, and I'm using his words here, that way of acquiescence leads to moral and spiritual suicide. Ways of violence leads to bitterness in the survivors and brutality in the destroyers. Whereas the ways of non-violence leads to redemption and creation of a beloved community. All three of them, combined with love and non-violent resistance, disarmed their opponents of their hatred, and in the process, gave all of us a glimpse of our potential as a human being. All three of them put together have done more towards world peace than all the combined efforts of world leaders, organizations, and peace treaties in the world. And they are a powerful example of the impact one individual can have on peace and on our world when that person says, "World peace starts with me." To fight for justice, to right a terrible wrong, takes immense strength. To do it with non-violent resistance, with the bigger dream of having a more beautiful world as an outcome of it, takes unimaginable courage and strength. So my question is, where did they get their strength from? Because if we are working towards world peace, we need that strength. So where did they get their strength from? No, they were not born on Krypton. They were not bitten by a radioactive spider either. And I checked. None of them had Iron Man suit. So what was it? It was inner strength. It was their spirituality. And the beauty is that all of us have access to it. All three of them were students of spirituality and masters of the inner world. And spirituality is not religion. Spirituality does not mean living a life of deprivation. Financial prosperity is in no way an impediment to spirituality. Spirituality means it's a way of life. It means connecting with our core, which makes us aspire to achieve the highest potential we have as a human being. In fact, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, one of the leading peace ambassadors in the world right now, and my spiritual guru, says anything which uplifts the spirit is spirituality. Right? And this is what gives us courage to keep fighting for the cause which is right for us and for the humanity, even when it gets tough. And it does get tough. Mahatma Gandhi said something very powerful. He said, fearlessness is the first requisite of spirituality, for cowards can never be moral. Before I go any further, does this happen to you that while you're listening to the stories of such great men and women, a part of you goes, yeah, he could do it. He was special. Sometimes without us even realizing, there's a small voice within us which goes, sure, he could choose peace and love. After all, he was Mahatma Gandhi. Well, we have to remember that before he became Mahatma Gandhi, he was just plain Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. And I assure you that all of us have that courage within us. And thankfully, there are techniques, time-tested ancient techniques, which will help you connect with your inner strength and inner peace. You don't really have to get bitten by a spider. That too, a radioactive spider. And these techniques are not something, I just Googled or watched some YouTube videos for this session. No. I have personally used every technique which I'm going to share. I'm very blessed to be here because I almost didn't make it. Murphy's Law, anyone? Anything that can go wrong? Yes, you got it right. Will go wrong. Well, my life, just 2.5 years back, was a perfect example of it. So I was in an abusive marriage. My family and all my close friends were not in a different city or state. They were on a whole different continent. I got hurt, which turned into chronic pain. So I was in physical pain 24/7 for 4 long years. And to top it all, I was not working during that time, or let me put it this way, I was in no position to work. So there was physical pain. But one very critical aspect of domestic violence is what it does to the mind. Because violence is not just physical. It is emotional, psychological too. Sometimes the wounds which do not bleed are the ones which hurt the most. And there was so much confusion, shame, humiliation. I used to ask myself these questions. Am I responsible for what is happening to me? Am I actually triggering his behavior? And the fear of people coming to know about it. Will they think of me as a failure? And when in that very deeply vulnerable state, I reached out, so someone I considered a friend, She actually turned around and asked me, "What did you do?" So you add victim blaming and shaming to the mix, and you have a perfectly vile, ugly, toxic mix which can corrode your soul if you let it. And I almost let it. I started believing the lies which were told to me, that I am not good enough. It is me, not him, that I am responsible for his bad behavior. I have no options. I am a failure. But as Nietzsche has very famously said, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Well, in my case, it almost killed me first. James Bond, Jason Bourne, Godfather. All the superhero movies have one thing in common. They make violence look cool, slick, almost glamorized. Take it from me, there is no glamour in violence. Violence is human behavior at its basest and lowest. And something changes. Something changes within us when we face violence. We can never go back to being who we were before it happened. So one day my husband, now my ex-husband, so one day my husband came home drunk and decided today would be a good day to kill me. So he kept a butcher's knife to my throat and he was shouting, "I'll kill you." It is very difficult to put into words what goes through your mind when you're facing almost certain death. But there were two things I remember very clearly. One was that I have to be still. I have to be very, very still so that I don't aggravate him. And the second one was that I'll not see, okay, this was not supposed to be part of the speech. And the second one was that I'll not ever see my family back again, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister back in India. Just give me a moment. But like I said, I'm very lucky. He changed his mind. But for those few moments, my life, my precious life, depended on someone else's whims and fancies. Whenever we face adversity in our life, we have two key emotions at play. And the emotion we choose to go with changes the course of our life. Two key emotions, fear and courage. And there cannot be any courage in absence of fear. So I had to make that choice too. Fear or courage? Courage or fear? And I'll be honest with you, it was so tempting to go with fear because I knew fear. But then there were two thoughts which popped up and refused to go away. One was, if I had died that night, I'm almost sure that I would have made it to the national news because the value of human life in Australia is immense. But I thought to myself, I'm not saying this for effect, I actually asked myself this. Have I taken birth just to be a statistic? And my answer, thankfully, was no. I, Ruchi Singh, refuse to be just a statistic of domestic violence. And then there was another question. If I had died that night, what would have been the value of my life? Because the only way we add value to our life is when we add value to other people's life. And this changed my life around. I chose courage. Like I had said, violence changes something deep within us. But what that change will be is our decision. I took responsibility for my life, good, bad, and ugly. And to anyone here who's going through a difficult time in their life, take responsibility for the situation you are in, take charge of it, and I promise you, you will immediately move from a place of weakness to a position of strength. And I gave a voice to myself. It's funny, in a very non-funny way. It is very funny that when you are voiceless, very few people come forward to be your voice. But ooh, the moment you start expressing yourself, so many people get uncomfortable about it. So I had my well-wishers too. I'm sure all of you have your well-wishers whenever you want to try something new. You get your well-wishers. I had mine too, who told me that I should actually keep quiet about such topics. In fact, I should actually keep a very low profile. So I thought about it. I gave it a very serious thought. But then I went ahead and wore red. I got on a stage and in front of 500 people gave a talk on domestic violence awareness combined with the message that we human beings have resounding power within us to recreate and transform our life. But my well-wishers, by God, were they persistent? Very persistent. They again told me that I was being very foolish. I should think of my future. Who will marry me? Because obviously that's what I was thinking at that time. Who will marry me if I talk about things like domestic violence? I should be quiet. I heard them. And I gave it a very serious thought again. And then I went ahead and created my YouTube channel. And guess what I called it? I called it Ruchi Singh Talks. So now Ruchi Singh Talks on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I am done hiding. And courage, you need courage in every step of your way whenever you want to do something which is not just existing but living. So when I gave my first talk, I included men as victims too. The number of women victims is disproportionately high, like there is no comparison. But men are victims too. And I stand against violence. And I stand for every person who's a victim of violence. I know what pain and fear feels like. In fact, I'm not even going to stand here and say, I'm so glad it happened to me because it has made me into who I am. No. I wish I didn't go through it. I wish I did not know the terror you feel in going to sleep in your own house. Nobody should know that kind of terror. But fact of the matter is that it happened. And I had to decide to do something. And I chose courage. So, like I said, it didn't end just choosing courage. So women were upset with me, some, that I included men too. So again, I had to take courage and decide that I will fight for my cause the way I believe in it. It took courage to be inclusive about it. It took courage to choose love over hate. In fact, it takes courage, all of you, even to express yourself, it takes courage, right? If you have to tell someone, I'm hurt, it takes courage. I'm lonely, it takes courage. I'm in love with you, it takes courage. I gave a speech before I came here, and let me tell you, I struggled with saying one line. I almost removed it from my speech, but I said I have to share it. That it took courage for me to tell someone that I'm so tired of hugging myself, can I get a hug? That took courage. The reason why I'm sharing this is, courage is not something which you need when you're fighting a war. It's part of your life. Courage is rightly esteemed to be the first of the human virtues. It is this quality which will ensure all other qualities. Without courage, there is no change, no innovation, no empowerment, and no world peace. And where do we get that courage from? I've already shared it. We have to journey within. Be honest to yourself. Most of the time, it is your feelings of fear, of what will people say, the fear of being judged, doubts, sometimes even sheer laziness, which owns us. When the techniques which I will share with you, if you do that, it will empower you to feel the way you want to feel. Instead of being a victim of your feelings, you will be the master of your feelings. And it is very important to have that kind of grounding within yourself. Because when you are centered in yourself, the external influences lose control over you. And your core takes over. And at our core, we are all peace and we are all love. So are you ready to know those techniques? Yes? All right, so ladies and gentlemen, let the journey begin. Before I share these techniques, this is not a quick fix. Any sustainable change takes a lot of effort and time. But I promise you one thing, if you do it, before it benefits the world, it will help you in your daily life, both professionally and personally. So motivation enough? Yeah? All right. So first is understanding the power your thoughts have on you. And don't take my word for it. Let's do an experiment. All right? Ready? So all of you, please sit up straight. Your spine erect. Your body relaxed. And close your eyes, please. And I would request you to give it a sincere effort, because otherwise what I'm trying to share, you may not experience it. All right? So take a deep breath in and breathe out. Again, take a deep breath in and breathe out. For the third and the final time, take a deep breath in and breathe out. Think of a negative incident in your life. Anything which made you feel sad, helpless, frustrated, even angry. Now, keeping your eyes closed, take your attention to your body. If you have done it sincerely, I want you to bring your attention to your navel area. There would be a sense of unease. Your tummy is clenching. Maybe your throat is tightening. And if you notice your breath, it is shallow. Keeping your eyes closed, take your attention to your feeling. Whatever you thought of happened in the past, but you are experiencing the same emotions, your mind and your body is responding to it in the present moment. And that is the power of your thoughts on you. May I request all of you to open your eyes. The purpose of this little exercise was to make you aware of the sheer power your own thoughts have on you. I could see some people tearing up and crying. whatever you thought of didn't happen now. But you're feeling it in the present moment. And it is very important to understand and be aware of your thoughts, because whatever you think consistently and persistently creates a pattern in your body. And I'm not saying it, science says it. That is why whenever we face a similar situation, in spite of our best intentions, we react in a similar manner because that pattern gets stimulated. If you are continuously auditing your thoughts, you will have the power to manage it. This empowers you. If you have noticed, the moment you are aware that your body is tensed is the moment it starts relaxing. All of us, even if we are like the most powerful people on this earth, nobody has complete control over the external situations in their life. However, all of us have complete control over the choices we make as to how we react or respond to it. So how, sitting for so long can be tiring. So how many of you are ready for an energy shot? Come on, people, show me some love. All right, so we'll make that energy shot together. All right? And I promise you, all of you, I didn't want to make you guys cry. But I promise you, when you have this energy shot, it will help you. You'll feel better. So are you ready to make it with me? I thought this was a summit for emerging leaders. How silent are my emerging leaders? Come on, let me have a loud yes. Yes! Good, good. So, again, please sit up straight. This time keep smiling. All right, and you don't have to close your eyes. I will show you what I want you to do, okay? So when I say breathe in, before I go any further, anyone who's had a surgery in last 6 months or who has stitches recently, please don't do it. Rest of us, we can do it. All right? So when I say breathe in, I'll show it to you, I'll keep down the mic and show it to you, but still, when I say breathe in, you have to breathe in with complete force, right? Like breathe in and open your palms like this. If you want to experience, yes, perfectly. And if you want to experience it, maybe if you feel like it, you can take out the jacket because it will constrict you. But it is like you don't really have to, just if you want the complete experience. And when we say breathe out, you have to breathe out and bring your hand down forcefully. Even your breath comes out forcefully, like this. And if you notice, I'm controlling my hand. I'm controlling my hand, so it's not like going this. It comes like breathe out. Like, yeah, so it's stopping here. Can everyone see it? I'll show it to you once. So take a deep breath in and breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. 5 more to go. Breathe in, breathe out. Do it with complete energy. Believe me. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. I'm thinking 2 more to go. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Relax. Now, please become aware of the energy in your body. It is important that you notice your energy. Notice your energy. If you notice, it's moving upwards. So whenever you have a long day, or you're feeling sad, hurt, angry, you do this. You do 3 rounds of it. This is called Bhastrika. And congratulations to all of you. You just did one of the exercises from the ancient practice of pranayama. And that brings me to the second technique, pranayama. Pranayama is made from 2 Sanskrit words, prana, which means life energy or life force, flowing through all living beings. And ayama means control. So pranayama means controlling our life forces. And it is a very powerful technique. It has very profound impact on us emotionally and on our mental health and on our physical health, right? Shri Shri Ravi Shankar explains it so beautifully. Our breath is the link between our body and the mind, right? So if our mind is a kite, then our breath is the thread. The longer the thread, the higher the kite will go. Pranayama not only gives us mental well-being, physical well-being, it also enables deep meditation, which allows us to connect to a higher energy. If I said, please don't be angry, why don't you control your anger? It is difficult, right? Because emotions are subtle, and anything which is subtle is difficult to manage. But if I said, take a deep breath in and breathe out, doable, right? Why is it important to know? Is because every single emotion has a corresponding breath pattern to it. And you, if you notice, you already know it. If you're angry, your breath is short and forceful. If you're stressed, your breath is shallow and rapid. And when you're at peace, you're not even aware of your breath. It is so smooth and so long. So, if you have to manage your emotions, all you have to do is manage your breath. You have power over your breath. And the benefits of pranayama are so immense that this is beyond the summit, beyond the capability, of this summit for me to share everything. I've already shared one. It gives you immense energy, that energy shot we made. If I had to share one more, it helps in removing deep-seated impressions of the mind. What happens is when we are consistently thinking of something negative, it creates energy blockages in our body, which leads to mental and physical health issues, right? If you do pranayama, you will break the blockages and the energy will flow smoothly. That is why it is extremely beneficial for your mental and physical health. Nari Shodhan Pranayama is one brilliant pranayama to remove the deep-rooted impressions of your mind. Now let's go to the third one, Nada Yoga. Nada means flow of sound, and yoga means union. Nada School of Yoga has beautifully described it. Nada Yoga is the act of connecting our consciousness with the universal consciousness through the flow of sound. Even science has said, right, that all of us, are vibrations. Everything in the universe vibrates at different frequencies. And we are surrounded by sound all the time, whether we hear it or not. So sound has a very powerful impact on us. And again, I'm not going to share anything which I can't make us do, right? Do you want to experience just the power of one sound? Yes, yes, yes. Perfect. Even though the energy is slightly low, but I'll take it. All right. By now you know the drill. Sit up straight, spine erect, body relaxed. Now, we'll say the sound, we'll make the sound rather, ah, right? And we'll do it for 5 times. And after you're done, I want you to not do anything. Just be aware. Aware, if you are aware of your body and the energies, you will start noticing the differences yourself. I wouldn't have to tell you that, right? So let me tell you how we will do that, right? So when we take a deep breath in, when we breathe out, we'll breathe out with the sound ah. So it'll be like and don't feel shy about it, don't laugh about it, because if you want to experience something, you have to give it your best, right? So we'll do it. And the longer the breath you can take, the longer you can say ah, and the better benefits you'll have. All right? So it'll be like notice your energy. If you take your attention to your navel center, you should feel some vibrations there. Our navel center is the only part of our body where all the energy channels meet. When we make this sound ah, it actually vibrates at our navel center and it is carried through all the energy centers we have. That is why this sound is very powerful. With practice, even if you have not noticed it now, don't feel bad about it. With practice, you will start noticing it. This is the impact of only one sound. Every sound has a corresponding impact on our body. And anything which has an impact on our physical body has an impact on us emotionally too. If you were to ask me, Ruchi, can you just give me one technique? If there is only one technique, if I can share which will benefit the humanity, it is meditation. I know it doesn't sound very cool, but sometimes things which actually make a deep impact may not be that cool or fashionable, but they are the ones which work. And this one has been working for last 5,000 years. And you are in good company. People like Oprah, Ray Dalio, a lot of top sports people, everyone swears by meditation. Now for me, if you asked me to describe it, I'll be very honest, meditation is something which you have to experience. It is very difficult to describe something so subtle. But if I had to describe it, I would say it is connecting with something deep within us, which helps us connect with a higher consciousness, which gives us deep rest and peace and bliss. When we meditate, when we make meditation a part of your life, we start seeing the world as one. So our love flows from us individually towards the cosmic consciousness. And this is what was experienced by Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and Nelson Mandela. Right? And finally, science is catching up to what the ancient saints of India knew for close to 5,000 years. Harvard research has shown that just 8 weeks of meditation has measurable impact on evolved areas of our cerebral cortex. Cerebral cortex is also known as gray matter. It is what makes us human. So our emotions, our awareness, memory, perception, so many other things, everything is regulated by cerebral cortex, and meditation has just 8 weeks of meditation. Can you imagine how much favor you would be doing yourself? Forget the world for a moment. Yourself. If you made 15 minutes dedicated to meditation. Let's do a meditation, a quick one. I want all of you to experience it. Yes? Who said yes? I love you for that. Thank you so much. All right, so please close your eyes. You have to sit up straight, and there is a reason for it. Our spine carries all the signals, and that is why it is said sit up straight. All of you sit up straight. Your body relaxed. Because if you're not relaxed physically, you will not experience meditation. And you don't have to concentrate. You don't have to be something, want something, nothing. Meditation is actually doing nothing. Close your eyes. Have a big smile on your face. A big smile. When I say take your attention to a certain part of your body, you don't have to visualize it. Just take your attention there. That's it. So with a deep breath, take your attention to your right feet and breathe out. Again, with a deep breath, take your attention to your calf muscle in the right leg and breathe out. Notice if there is any tension there. Just be with it. You have to do nothing. Just notice if there is any tension. And keep breathing. Take your attention to your right knee and breathe out. To your right thigh and breathe out. Take your attention to your hip. And if there is any tension in your hip, in your lower back area, just become aware of it. Notice that tension. Notice that pain or discomfort. And breathe out. Now focus your attention on your left feet. And breathe out. Wherever you take your attention to, and if you feel any tension, just notice it. Totally become aware of it, accept it. Take your attention to your left calf muscles and breathe out. Your thighs, your left hip. Notice if there is any tension and breathe out. Take your attention to your navel area. Navel area is the center for some very powerful emotions. Notice it and be comfortable around it. And breathe out. Bring your attention to your heart area. Let it expand the way it did when you thought of something happy. And keep breathing. Take your attention to your throat. Not neck, throat. And breathe out. Take your attention to your right shoulder. If there is any tension, just be with it. Your right hand and arms. And breathe out. Take your attention to your left shoulder. Relax. Your left arms and hand. Take a deep breath and relax. Take your attention to your lower back. Whenever we are stressed, worried, when we are worried for money, things like that, we have lower back issues. Focus on your lower back and let it relax. Let it expand. Focus on your complete back and breathe out. Back of your neck. Take your attention to the back of your neck and breathe out. Your face, your jawline. Is there any tension in your jawline? Take a deep breath and let it relax. Your right cheek, your right eye, your nose, your upper lip and your lower lip, your left cheek, left eye. Take your attention to your forehead and breathe out. Take your attention to the top of your head. Be there. Slowly, very slowly, become aware of any sound in this room and accept it. Become aware of any feelings and accept it. Become aware of your body. And taking your own time, please open your eyes. What we did was just a preparation, not even meditation, just the basic preparation. Once you start doing it regularly, and there are a whole lot of meditations, there is no set rule. You can do any form, any guru, any school, that doesn't matter. As long as you are doing authentic meditation, your energies will become more powerful and subtler. And believe me, when we are centered in ourselves, our decision-making capability, our intuitions are so much better that automatically most of the decisions in our life are taken keeping in mind the humanity we have. I'll wrap up my session with a story. Story of 3 pine seeds. So there were 3 pine seeds. One was planted in a forest reserve. And it was given all the right opportunities for growth, whatever is required. And that pine tree grew up to be a giant of a tree. The other one was planted in a big pot, and it was also watered and given some manure. It also grew, but nowhere close to the pine tree which grew in the forest reserve. And the third one was thrown in the desert. Nothing came out of it. Similarly, all of us have seeds of peace, love, happiness, and humanity within us. It is up to us to nurture it or not nurture it. If we nurture it, it will grow up not only to shelter us, but to provide a shade to the rest of the world. Whenever we take a stand for what is right, not only for us, for the rest of the world, we make it easy for others. Every act of humanity starts a small wave of change, which builds up to a huge tidal wave, washing away centuries of oppression and inhumanity. I'm borrowing the words of Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King when I say, sometimes it falls on a generation to be great, and you can be that generation. Let your greatness blossom. Everybody can be great. All you need is a heart filled with grace and a soul generated by love. Let's raise a toast to peace. Say it with me. To peace, to love, to humanity. Thank you so much.